As the clock ticks closer to a possible U.S. military strike against Syria, many are warning not so fast. Earlier, I spoke with Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. He's a key member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. We spoke just before that declassified intelligence report was released. Senator Paul, if you were president of the United States, and I know you're thinking about becoming president one of these days, but if you were president now and you got a report from your intelligence community that hundreds of people were gassed, were killed by chemical weapons, thousands injured on August 21st, what would you do about that?
Well, I think it's incumbent to always obey the Constitution. The rule of law is something our country's founded on, and I would ask Congress to come together and we would debate whether or not it's in our national security interest to be involved. I think it's horrific, you know, when civilians are killed, but civilians have been killed on both sides of this war. Horrific things have happened. You know, there have been images of Islamic rebels eating the hearts of their opponents. So really, I don't think there's a lot of good on either side of this war. But the main thing is I agree with Barack Obama of 2007, who said that no president should unilaterally go to war without the authority of Congress.
Well, you know that ever since that 1973 War Powers Act became the law, a lot of presidents, Democratic presidents, Republican presidents, they launched military action without formal congressional authority, whether it was Ronald Reagan in Grenada or George H.W. Bush in Panama or Bill Clinton in Kosovo. So if the president were to launch military strikes against Syria right now, he'd be following their examples.
Yeah, bad examples are not always good examples to follow. You know, if you look at the War Powers Act, it says explicitly that the only exception to Congress giving you authority is an imminent attack. And the president seemed to understand this as a senator. So did Joe Biden as a senator as well. They both were very explicit that you have to be under imminent attack, or actually in Biden's case, he said it was an impeachable offense. So he believed very strongly about this as a senator. I believe very strongly that the Constitution was intended to separate the powers. You know, Madison said that the executive is the power most likely to go to war, so we vested the power to declare war in Congress.
In an article you wrote for CNN.com, you wrote this. I'll put it up on the screen. You said, America's wars must be debated by Congress, declared constitutionally, and fought only for the interests and security of the United States. They should never be fought to save face. All right, so what do you mean by that when you say save face? Because the implication is what, as far as the president is concerned?
I think some may feel, and the president may be one who feels, that he's losing his international power or acclaim if he doesn't follow. He said there was a red line with chemical weapons, and he feels incumbent to act. But the thing is just to act to save face is not a strategic objective. He's already pre-announced that if he does attack, he's going to do it in a very limited fashion, and he's not going to be for regime change. To me, this sort of sounds like we're not going to win. He's for stalemate. When I've had private conversations with the administration, that's what I hear. They're not for victory for either side. They're for equalizing the battle and having stalemate. But I see it in personal perspective. I have 3 sons. I don't see sending one of my sons to war or your son to war to fight for stalemate. I think there should be a clear-cut strategic objective that helps the United States. And we should know that whoever wins the war, whoever we're supporting, will be a friend of the United States. I'm not certain that either side or any of the multiple sides of this war will ultimately be a friend of the United States.
You know, you have disagreements among some of your Republican colleagues. Republican Senator Bob Corker, for example, a key member of the Foreign Relations Committee, he said after being briefed by the administration, he says he now supports what he calls surgical, proportional military strikes. So why is he wrong and you're right?
Well, I would ask the question, what is the strategic objective? Is it simply to say, shame on you for launching and using chemical weapons? I would like to know who used the chemical weapons. In all likelihood, it probably was the Syrian government, but it really isn't to their advantage. It's actually more to the advantage of the rebels to have launched this attack, because the whole world now is uniting against Assad. I would want to know, though, would the surgical strikes that are favored, would they somehow eliminate chemical weapons and stop him from using these again? If it's not regime change, it may well incite the Russians to become more involved, the Iranians to become more involved. It may well incite gas attacks on Tel Aviv or Israel.